Thank you very much. I'd like to first thank the Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Rajkumar, and the Dean of the School of Public Policy, my dear friend Mr. Sudarshan, and Professor Aseem Prakash for their very kind and warm hospitality. I'm deeply indebted. It's a great pleasure to be here, Professor Rajkumar. As I was seeing the various facilities you have, Professor Aseem Prakash told me this is equal to any university in the West, and I corrected him by saying that I have had the privilege of studying in the best universities in the West, and this is far better than that. So congratulations on this excellent thing which you and others have done, including Professor Sudarshan. And I'm very happy to meet all of you. What I would like to do, because there is a time constraint, I would like to speak to you for about 25-30 minutes, make it interactive, and then we'll throw it open because I'm keen to know what you think about whatever I'm going to present. And so the whole exercise will be for about an hour or so. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you about an actual case study in administrative intervention. And the reason why it is important is because, it really goes to the heart of what we call governance today. And I'll give you a background to all that, but the way I would like you to look at this is the following. First, in a very inhospitable environment, like working in the city corporation, the local body, a major change was done in the way taxes were collected. So change, that's the first item. The second was that the change happened because of strong political commitment. But it also happened because we were able to build up stakeholder support. So that is the second issue, that there must be consensus before anything happens in the public domain. And the third is that most of the times things happen, we change something, and then it reverts back to the status quo. There is this enormous tendency in the system to go back to inertia. But as I will show you, whatever changes were brought about have continued. So what we say, sustainability. So these are the three things that I wanted to emphasize before we start. And as I said, I'm going to talk to you about the self-assessment scheme of property tax collections which happened in Bangalore City Corporation, and I was the commissioner of the Bangalore City Corporation. I won't go into the institutional structure. I'm sure all of you are familiar with how a city is run, with the corporation, the election, the main points of the 73rd and 74th Amendment. So how it began, this is the scope. I'm going to talk to you about the context, the intervention, what was this self-assessment scheme, what were the salient features of it. I won't bore you with the technical details except to tell you what the departures were from the earlier system. And then, as I said, how we built up stakeholder support using what is now very popular called the Bangalore Agenda Task Force, which was then headed by Nandan Nilekani, who is now the chairman of the UID, okay? And then the resistance that one encounters in these things, and finally, some takeaways, okay? Okay, so this happened really in 1999, that period after that, when Bangalore, the city of Bangalore, the image of the city had taken a very heavy beating. The reason why it took a beating was because they said that the infrastructure of the city was very inadequate to meet the needs of the city. And although it boasted of being the Silicon Center of India, Infosys, Wipro, etc., generally the feeling was that, in relation to the requirements, the city had not kept up in terms of either infrastructure or civic services. And one of the reasons cited for the city not being able to cope with the requirements was that the Bangalore City Corporation, called the BMP, had a terrific resource constraint. 65% of the revenues of any city corporation come from the property tax. Property tax is what an owner of property pays after an assessment is done of what is his tax by the city corporation. So in the past 7-8 years, the growth in taxes was very minimal, 1 to 2% a year. And therefore, the comment made was, we are not able to spend for the roads, for drainage, for civic services, because there is no money. Okay? And the other point was that Bangalore had really slipped vis-a-vis Hyderabad. At that point in time, the cities were in great competition with each other. And Professor Rajkumar, we lost out to Hyderabad in terms of the location of the Indian School of Business, ISB. I think you all are all familiar with the ISB, and it was Chandra Babu's razzmatazz which really got them, the ISB, and Bangalore really came out second. So at that time, what happened was the elections were held, and we had a new chief minister, S.M. Krishna, who was till recently Minister for Foreign Affairs. And S.M. Krishna became the chief minister with a very good majority. And he is an urbane, sophisticated gentleman. And one of the things he had in mind was to improve the infrastructure in the city, make it really the best in the country. And with that vision, he called me one day. I was then in the power sector and I was heading to the electricity board as chairman. He called me and told me that here is a bigger challenge in front of us, how to revive and revitalize the city. So why don't you join me in trying to make this city, I'll give you all the powers, the autonomy, etc. And so with that kind of assurance, I joined as the commissioner of the city corporation. And Bangalore city had then a population of about 5.5 million. It's now 9 million today because it's expanded considerably. And the city was divided into 100 wards.
2000 or 99?
2000. So what was important was, in order to ensure civic participation in the city, we set up the Bangalore Agenda Task Force, BATF, which was the first attempt made at trying to get civic participation into the city affairs. Not elected body, but civic participation. And various people prominent in industry, in the IT world, were made members of the BATF, one of whom was Nandan Nilekani, who was appointed as chairman of the BATF. And so the BATF for Mr. Krishna was a vehicle by which the city's capabilities, energies, technology, all of it can be utilized by the city corporation and other civic bodies in order to improve and enhance the city's performance. And along with that, one other exercise we took was to benchmark Bangalore in terms of basic services with, let's say, the best functioning city in Asia, which is Singapore. So Mr. Krishna said that my aim would be to kind of enhance and upgrade Bangalore to the level at which Singapore is, and that invited a lot of derisive comments from his opponents to the effect that, you know, first get your roads right before you look at Singapore. But I want to emphasize that benchmarking is a very important thing we need to keep in mind when we are concerned with improving administrative standards and performance. One of the problems we faced was very poor capacity in the city corporation. And when I speak of capacity, I'm talking of execution capacity, I'm talking of administrative capacity. And you will see that this runs across all public bodies, because today we have not paid emphasis on all the elements that go to the making of a good organization. Leadership, capacities all around, vision, execution, all the things that go into making of a good organization is really lacking in these bodies. So when I say capacity, I mean there was a severe capacity problem in the Bangalore City Corporation. But I'm going to talk now more specifically about revenue gathering. I said that there was a resource constraint in the Bangalore City Corporation. This was because the growth in property taxes was very sluggish, hardly about 2 to 3%. And at that point in time, there were about 1.5 million households in Bangalore. Of them, only about 15% had come under the tax net. Think about it. Only 15% of the households had come under the tax net because people had got out of paying property taxes either in connivance with the revenue machinery or by paying far lower taxes than what they were entitled or what they had to pay. Okay? So the result was that the actual property taxes was very limited, barely able to meet the requirements of the city corporation. And corruption was galore. For instance, the way property taxes were assessed was that an inspector would come to your house, and the inspector would look at your house, literally, and then say, Mr. Rajkumar, you have a beautiful house. And okay, we'll assess your house at, say, 25 lakhs rateable value. So if you calculate that as the rateable value, you pay a tax of about 1 lakh a year towards property tax. So neither Mr. Rajkumar would understand what is the basis for the property tax calculation, nor would he accept it because he would think it is far too high. So in those circumstances, when you have asymmetric information, okay, when there is no sharing of information between the two parties involved in a transaction, the tendency, I mean, I'm not saying in Rajkumar's case, but generally, the tendency in most cases was you would try to arrive at a deal with the inspector and say, this is far too high, why don't you reduce it? And normally, the inspector would then say, okay, as a gesture to you, I'll reduce it from 1 lakh to 40,000. And he would be very happy because he's got that reduction, or so he thinks. And the revenue inspector is happy for obvious reasons. He's collected rent. And the only guy who is shortchanged is the Bangalore City Corporation. So this is how the system ran, literally. And if any of you have any contacts in Bangalore, you can ask them and you will understand that I am not exaggerating. Okay, there was an appeal mechanism. Supposing you were dissatisfied with the way the property tax was fixed, you could go in appeal within the department, and finally you could go in appeal with the appeal committee of the Bangalore City Corporation, which consisted of elected representatives. But if you went in appeal, the first thing you had to do, apart from paying the appeal amount, was to ensure that you gave 10% of what you wanted to the chairman of the appeals committee. I mean, that was open. The kind of money that was collected in order for the appeal committee to hear the appeal was openly known and discussed all across the city corporation. So that was another den of iniquity. And the appeal mechanism never really gave any kind of relief to the citizen. So the citizen was in a double bind. A, he really did not know the basis on which the taxes were collected or assessed, and B, no recourse existed in order for his legitimate, genuine claims to be heard. So as a result, it is not surprising that there was enormous public dissatisfaction over this entire system of property tax. Day in and day out, the citizens would write to the newspapers, they would go to their representatives and say that, you know, I have been harassed, I have been ill-treated, taxes have been fixed which are far too high, I'm a retired guy, and yet when I come back from military service, the inspector has assessed me at this high amount, etc., etc. But there was little kind of relief that they got. So there is a gentleman called Samuel Paul, who is, you know, you should read about Samuel Paul. Samuel Paul was director IIM Ahmedabad and later went to the World Bank and came back and started an NGO in Bangalore called the Public Affairs Center, PAC. And Sam Paul did a citizen survey, the first citizen survey of its kind in this country in 2000 AD in Bangalore city. And that has now been adopted by the World Bank and extended to all other cities in the world. So Sam Paul did a citizen survey report for Bangalore city in which he assessed various citizen services given by the utilities and the civic bodies and the kind of public satisfaction or dissatisfaction over each of these services. And right on top of this report card that he prepared in 2000, the property tax was ranked as the service that created the maximum dissatisfaction among the public for the reason which I mentioned, you know, corruption, harassment, iniquity, and so on. So that really was the background in which, you know, this property taxes were collected in the Bangalore City Corporation. And there were valiant attempts made by my predecessors to reform it. One of them is a former chief secretary of our state called Ravindra. Ravindra tried to bring about something similar to the self-assessment scheme. I'll tell you what the scheme is in a minute. But it came a cropper because he couldn't get it through the elected body. Because the elected body, the corporators, the revenue machinery, okay, which means the inspectors and their superiors, and various other people all formed a kind of a triad, a mafia, which wanted to ensure that this iniquitous system continued. So Ravindra was unsuccessful on that score. So one of the first things I did on being confronted with this kind of dissatisfaction among the public and on being told by the Chief Minister that we have to improve the system and reduce the toxicity in the organization was to build up a good team of people. And I got, with the assistance of the Chief Minister, 2 outstanding IAS officers, both of whom are still in service. One of them as my deputy and the other to head the taxes department. And I told them that, why don't both of you focus now on this taxes? Why don't you look at all the measures that exist within the corporation and within other bodies and see what we can do in order to overhaul this system? Not rectify it, not modify it, but overhaul the system. And they came up to me and said, out of all the places in Patna, this is Lalu Yadav's Patna, not today's Patna, apparently they had started something similar to the self-assessment scheme. But of course, that scheme didn't take off. So they said there are certain cities where, there have changes taken place. And so we will put it all together. We will run it through the machinery within the body and we'll come to you and tell you this is how you can do it. It is your task to pilot it through the city corporation elected body to get political acceptance and to make sure that it is taken up. So they spent about roughly 2.5 months in putting together the self-assessment scheme, the essentials of the self-assessment scheme. And when they came up to me and reported to me and said, we have a solution, and the solution is simple to implement, it gives a lot of assurance to the citizen, and most important, we are empowering the citizen in a manner I'll tell you shortly. When they said that, I felt that, this really deserved to be taken up as one of the foremost measures in order to improve the working of the Bangalore City Corporation. So I went to the Chief Minister and he was extremely receptive to this idea. I briefed him about it and I told him that now we have to get this passed by the Corporation Council, which consists of 100 corporators, a mayor, a deputy mayor, and we also need to overcome the resistance of the revenue machinery within the corporation, who were all co-parsoners, so to speak, in the earlier iniquitous system. So on the assurance of the Chief Minister, we were able to convince the mayor. The mayor was a good man. There is a stereotype in our system that all politicians are bad, that they are, rent seekers and so on. But here is a case. The mayor of the city corporation, when I was the commissioner for the first time, the man whom I'm speaking about is only a 4th standard pass person, the tailor to boot. And he's a veteran of the system. He must have, got enough out of the system. But on this particular point, he said, I am with you. Because he probably thought that, there was a good upside to it. In his term as mayor, if you brought about a change like this, he would also be remembered. So we were able to get his buy-in to it. And thanks to the mayor and to the chief minister, we were able to get the self-assessment scheme passed by the Bangalore City Corporation. Okay. What is this scheme in brief? I'll be very brief about it. The scheme says that the city of Bangalore will be divided into a couple of zones. Commercially viable zones, distant, things like that. Zones on the basis of their economic value, 1. 2, buildings would be divided according to the cost of the building. So if you go to Professor Rajkumar's house, it will be, of course, marble flooring and, fantastic accompaniment. So it would be rated at a particular amount per square foot. And there would be the lowest dwelling units, which would be, asbestos roof, which would be far less in terms of rateable value, that is per square foot. And once you assess this building on the basis of how much is the floor area, you would calculate a product. And that product would be the rateable value. So if you had 2,000 rupees, 2,000 square feet in area A, and in area A, if the rate per square foot was 2 rupees, your rateable value was 4,000 rupees. So if you lived in your own house, you paid 20% of it, which is 800 rupees. If you lived in another, if you rented it out, you paid 30%, which is 1,200 rupees. Okay? And we publicized it widely. We made it into very easy booklets for people to follow in English and Kannada. We gave more than 10 examples of how you could calculate your tax without having to go to any intermediary. And most important, why did we call it self-assessment? We called it self-assessment because you as a citizen were empowered to calculate your own tax. All right? You were empowered to calculate your own tax. Having calculated your tax, you could write out a check in the name of the Commissioner, Bangalore City Corporation, and send it to him. So there was no interface with the hated inspector. You didn't have to engage with any intermediary. The scheme was very easy to understand. You could calculate it, and I'll tell you how we tried to get a buy-in from the public at large. So we really tried to make it as simple as possible. And something of interest to the Vice Chancellor, when we wanted to roll it out, the Law Department of the government said that this scheme will not stand because, you cannot bring about changes in the taxation structure through an administrative order. You have to go to the legislature. So my deputy, who I said was an extremely sharp person, told me, in that case, we'll make it an optional scheme. We will tell the taxpayer, the citizen, look, either you remain in that hell and interact with the inspector and get screwed by him, or you come under this optional scheme and you collect, you pay, you assess your own tax and pay it and send a check. And any reasonable person will opt for less misery compared to more misery, right? So that's how we got through the, objections of the government law department, that you had to legislate in order to bring it about. And secondly, in order to assuage the citizen, we said, if you are paying 100 rupees now, let us assume that, you are paying a lower amount. Through this self-assessment, the maximum you need to pay is 2.5 times that. So 250, okay? Even if through assessment, self-assessment, it is 500, you limit it to 250, okay? And similarly, if you are paying 100 rupees now, the only floor on this is 25% of that. That is, you pay not less than 75 rupees, okay? 100 rupees. So if through self-assessment,
100 rupees is the tax.
100 rupees is the tax you are paying through that rate system, inspector system. Now under self-assessment, whatever be the amount, the upper bound is 2.5 times 100 rupees. The lower bound is 75% of 100 rupees. Okay? That's what it is. So this was of enormous benefit to the public. And we were able to roll it.
Fear that it is going to be exorbitant.
It's not ballooning. This is the price you pay for honesty and, all that stuff. So you had to make it a little bit palatable. You had to sugarcoat it and make it acceptable to the people at large. So that really is the scheme in essence, You, the citizen, are empowered to pay it. There are certain rules on which the city is divided, and rates are posited depending upon the construction value, and also there is a depreciation you get. So if your house is 10 years old, you get a depreciation of 30% or whatever. So even that is being taken care of. Okay, so once this self-assessment scheme was done, I told you that one of the important things we did was stakeholder support. How did we ensure stakeholder support? We ensured stakeholder support by first going to the resident welfare associations. There are 400 resident welfare associations in Bangalore, and my colleagues and I too went to each one of the resident welfare associations, or we got them together in a group and gave them a very short presentation on how they are suffering now and how their suffering will be completely liberated if they adopt the self-assessment scheme. Because it is optional, right? So they had to adopt it. It was not compulsory. And then we also went to the Chambers of Commerce, the Advocates Association. The advocates are a very influential section of the community, and usually if they espouse a particular thing, people will follow because, the advocates are always up on trying to ensure that their interests are always protected. So we went to the Chamber of Commerce, the advocates, the doctors, all other professionals, the recreational clubs like the Bangalore Club and Century Club. And very important, we got the help of the media, and for that the Bangalore Agenda Task Force was very important. And so the media, the Times of India for instance, they had one whole page in which they would try to answer the citizen queries, made calculations, and tried to make sure that people were in the know, because this was a complete departure from whatever existed in the past. And in front of all the offices of the Bangalore City Corporation, the revenue offices, etc., we established payment clinics. So that if at the end of the day you still didn't know how to calculate this, and you are an elderly person, let's say, you are confused, you could go to that payment clinic and that person would help you calculate the tax. Remember, it was not the inspector who helped you. It was this authorized, designated person who could help you calculate the tax, and in turn you could write out a check and give it to the... So when you look at the whole thing, before we rolled it out, we asked ourselves the question, who are the winners of this? Obviously, I thought that the citizens were the winners, right? The citizens at large, people who are honest, law-abiding, they are the winners of this. And who are the losers? First and foremost, the revenue machinery, the inspectors, all those who depended on them, and the vested interests. And the real merit of this was that it empowered the citizen. So emboldened by all that, we launched the scheme in the beginning of the year. And what happened was, sir, in the first 15, 20 days, there was an absolute lack of response from the public. We thought that they will come out in large numbers and opt for the self-assessment and write their check and, respond. But that response was lacking. And so there were a lot of derisive comments which said that, this commissioner has come and this new chief minister who wants to make Bangalore into Singapore, they've got mud on their face, or egg on their face, this is not going to work. The only thing that works is the rate-based inspector system. And so there was a lot of to and fro comments for the first 15 days. So when that happened, and I also was getting a little nervous, because in the IAS, in the government, if you don't perform, you can be shifted quickly. And I thought Mr. Krishna may lose his confidence with me and I would get the boot soon. But so what we did then was we enlisted the Bangalore Agenda Task Force, that is Nandan and various other extremely talented people. And through the Bangalore Agenda Task Force, we made a fervent pitch to appeal to the people. So how did we do it? Through celebrity endorsement. So we had Roger Binny. You heard of Roger Binny? Roger Binny was the cricketer, very famous in Bangalore because, they won the World Cup, SMH, Kirmani, those guys. We made Roger Binny kind of, speak to the public by a short 2-minute film which said, Roger Binny is signing and says, I have opted for the self-assessment scheme. So why don't you? Okay, we put it in the TV. And then it was not Roger Binny alone, we also made a glamorous actress do it. And then finally the chief minister was very kind to agree. So SMK, the shot is SMK looks up to the camera and says, are you surprised I am doing this? I also own a house in Bangalore and I have opted for the self-assessment. It's very easy. If I can opt, why not you? So at that point in time, somebody came and told us, you're only catching the high society types. What about the others down the line? So we caught hold of an auto rickshaw driver. We caught hold of a fruit seller and made them also say the same thing. And so celebrity endorsement was one. Media blitz, we mounted a huge media campaign, used all the available ad space and the billboards. And so we really tried to communicate to the public that don't spurn this opportunity. This is something of great relevance to us. Utilize it. Then we got involved in a tangle. And that's why I thought I'll tell the Honorable Vice Chancellor that these guys did their best in trying to challenge this. Okay? And we had a very good judge who refused to give any stay order and so on. And the reason why, sorry, it was a division bench, sir, why they refused to give a stay order was because of the optional nature of the scheme. They said that no citizen is infringed. The rights of a citizen are not infringed. If you don't want this, you go to that regular system. So we were confident that nothing will happen until the High Court closed for vacation. And one mischievous lawyer filed it before the vacation bench of the High Court. And the vacation bench of the High Court gave a stay of the self-assessment scheme. And that matter was communicated to me by my lawyer, who is now the Advocate General of the state. And I thought this was the end. Because, you know, the vacation bench has given this order and then we are stymied. And their whole purpose was to see that this was thrown off the rails. So I asked the advocate, and then our advocate, what is the way out? And he said, you know, you can only make an appeal in the court and the court will convene 4 days later and so on. So my deputy and I took a decision, a heroic decision in retrospect, but fraught with grave consequences, that we will go to the house of the judge. Yeah, we will seek a time, we will go to the house of the judge, and we will try to tell him what exactly this is, and then leave it at that. So 4 of us, including the advocate, we have taken the advocate because just in case the judge shouts at us, we can deflect it towards the advocate. So we went to the judge. He later became Chief Justice of some other High Court, and we kind of spoke to him, and he was a mild man, and you know, so we frightened him up. We told him, if this scheme collapses, there will be no property tax collection at all in Bangalore, and all civic services will come to a stop. And garbage will pile up outside your house. I'm sorry, we can't do anything about it. We told him in those words. So we came out, and the advocate for me told me, I think you may have been a little too strong with the judge, he said. But it worked, because the next day, the judge recalled his order, and the stay was vacated. And so that's how we were able to resolve this legal tangle. Yeah. So I must also tell you that after the self-assessment scheme came into existence, the revenues of the corporation increased by about 80% in 1 year. 80%. 80%. Because thanks to the BATF, thanks to the communication campaign, thanks to all that things we started, the tide turned, and the response of the citizens was outstanding. There were huge queues that were formed. They wanted to pay their taxes themselves. The citizens were really taken up by this. And the celebrity endorsement of all these guys, the actress Pallavi, Roger Binney, the fruit seller, all that must have turned the imagination of the people. And so the self-assessment scheme became a great success. So much so, Sudarshan, that now, 10 years later, when I go to Jayanagar, some old pensioner stops me and says, "Isn't your name so-and-so?" I said, "Yes." "Didn't you start the self-assessment scheme?" I said, "Yes." Because of that, I stopped paying a bribe to the revenue inspector. That's the kind of feedback I get from people, even now, after so many years. So clearly it has met with public approval and it has now come to stay. So just to wrap it up, what are the ingredients of a good administrative intervention? I would like you to reflect on these 6 points that I have put. You could add to this. One is that in our system, any change in the public domain is predicated on strong political commitment. Because today, clearly, it is the politician who rules the roost, not the bureaucracy. And if we have sound political leadership of the kind that Mr. Krishna displayed, or the mayor, then we were able to bring about the self-assessment scheme. Merely by ourselves, we could not do it. And that's what happened to Dr. Ravindra. So this is one lesson that I thought I'll place before you. The second is that, in order to implement anything, you require capacity. That's trite. But what we call execution discipline in the system is a function of the capacity you build up. And this capacity is really the task of administrative leadership. So if you were to head an organization, like the Vice Chancellor, for instance, clearly among all his functions and duties, he has to build up capacities. And those capacities have to engage themselves in particular tasks and complete them on time. So over time, it's very important to identify what you require and to build it. The third is communication. Because in today's world, unless people know what they are doing, what they have to do, their rights and their responsibilities, the benefits for them, it will not work. So initially, the lack of response, the tepid response was because we didn't communicate it adequately. But later, as I explained to you, because of this huge communication barrage, people came around and they accepted and supported this scheme. The fourth is, if any intervention has to succeed, the design is very important. It must be simple to understand. And it must also be pro-people. In this case, the design was very easy. Any fourth standard literate person could understand the scheme. And it empowered the citizen. It trusted him or her, which is why it was accepted by the public. And the fifth is, the tide must turn, is that you have to be patient when you want to do it. You can't expect immediate results. As I showed you, initially it was as though this was going to collapse, but then over a period of time, it happened. And the sixth is that any intervention, any change in our system works only when there are people who really espouse it on a 24/7 basis. In this case, my two deputies who are still now very much in the government, the mayor, the chief minister, the Nandan on BATF, and our advocate who really helped us. They were all the people, among others, who made the self-assessment scheme a reality. Okay, I would end normally on this note, except that you may have a question, what happened after that? What is the aftermath? Because you see, in our system, there is no happy ending, right? Okay? So yeah, there was no happy ending, because you see, what happened was that after I left, I had to leave the corporation owing to some reasons. After I left, my own successors tried to stymie it. For various reasons. They might have thought that the scheme is not good enough, or they might have thought there should be some refinement of the system, or it doesn't have legal backing, or reasons like that. And it didn't have adequate support even within the government. So for a period of time, they thought, let us shelve this self-assessment scheme, let's go back to something else, etc., etc. That was the dialogue. But when that happened, what we saw was that it was the elected body, and it was the people, the MLAs and so on, who said the self-assessment scheme must continue. Because we had given an assurance to the public that once we fix the assessment, we will not change it for 10 years. So you had that kind of surety in mind. So it was support by the citizen, by the elected representatives, by others, which ensured that the system continued. And the state government, sir, went to the extent of making it into law. So now the self-assessment scheme is law in our state, and all the cities in our state have adopted it. It's no longer optional. And that iniquitous system, which was at the behest of the inspector and so on, is now gone. Okay. And today, of course, the Bangalore Corporation is expanded compared to what it was, but we are earning close to 1,000 crores a year from the self-assessment scheme, okay, compared to the 100 or 80 crores that were earned earlier and which doubled in less than a year's time. Today, the yield is much more, and above all, people are happy because they don't have to pay anything in order to get this thing done. They do it themselves. So that kind of negative interface with the bureaucracy, with the section of the people, all that is lost. So This is the aftermath. And one of the things I said in the beginning was that administrative interventions, you have to gauge them in terms of their efficacy by seeing whether they continue through time. So for the past 10 years, we have seen this to be a reality. Okay? So that's what I wanted to say, and I've spoken, I think, for about 40 minutes. So now, if you have any questions or doubts, we're happy to.